This episode of PodTims is brought to you by Football Prizes. We're delighted to be partnering with Football Prizes for the 22-23 season once again. Football Prizes is a great site that gives you the opportunity to win great prizes for a low cost. This week their Celtic prize that they're got up for grabs is an Ange Postecoglou signed and framed Celtic shirt, and there's also instant win prizes, which is a Leo Abada signed montage and this season's home kit. So if you want to be involved in that, then you need to take yourself over to footballprizes.co.uk and purchase a ticket for the competition. £3.95 for a ticket, but we can get you a wee discount on that if you use our code 4TIMS10. That'll get you 10% off your ticket price and put you in the draw. As I said, the main prize is the Postecoglou signed shirt, but if you're lucky enough to draw one of the tickets that gets you an instant win prize, you could win an Abada montage or this season's home kit just for entering. You'll be assigned a ticket number. If your number matches one of the instant win prizes, that's you've won that straight away, no need for any sort of draw. So yeah, if you go over there and get a ticket, you'll be supporting the podcast and giving yourself a chance to win some great prizes as well. There's a lot more than just Celtic prizes over there, so be sure to browse the site and you'll see some great competitions that I'm sure you'll be interested in. But yeah, thanks again to the guys at Football Prizes for supporting this podcast, and we'll get on with the show.
Hello there and welcome to 4Tims a podcast. This is going to be our season 22-23 preview and predictions. As you know, we added a few new bodies to the PodTims network this season. Delighted to say that two of them are with me today. I've got Kieran and Brian on with me. It's myself, Darren, that's hosting this episode. So we're just going to have a look, preview how we think the domestic action's going to go, and also looking towards how we think Champions League and Europe in general is going to go for Celtic this season. So let's get straight into it. It was a quite incredible first season under Ange Postecoglou. He was a man who not many Celtic fans had maybe heard of when he got the job last June, but he soon got the fans inside and it became a very successful double winning season for Celtic. But Brian, I'll come to you first. As we were now 6 days away from Celtic unfurling the Champions flag, just to briefly start, how do you see Ange Ball 2.0 or Ange's second season in charge of Celtic going?
I think it's going to be very similar, but I think he's going to make some kind of tweaks to it. I think obviously with a difference in player in certain positions, looking at Bernabe eventually coming into the team. I seen a little bit of him on Saturday at the game against Norwich. I think going forward he's got real confidence. His final ball's a bit iffy, but I think when it comes to beating players and getting past players, I think that's going to be we're going to see a real difference in that side of the pitch on especially obviously on his side, on that left hand side. So I think looking at up front, Kyogo, Giakoumakis, obviously we don't want the situation where Giakoumakis pretty much didn't play for the first half of the season and then Kyogo was out for the majority of the second half of the season. What we obviously want is to have a situation where we're kind of alternating them rather than playing them because the other one's injured. Hopefully that they're both now over their injury and they're ready to go for the kind of coming campaign. I think both players are going to come into different games and have a different effect depending on what the kind of score is and what the kind of situation is at that particular time. But he's obviously added, looking at Jota and Carter Vickers were there last season, but they've obviously been secured. The centre half situation I'm fairly comfortable with now that Jens has come in. Again, I seen him briefly on Saturday against Norwich. Thought he looked very comfortable on the ball and good coming out from the back. Didn't come up against much against Norwich, right enough, so we'll have to see how that goes. But I would certainly feel more confident than having Stephen Welsh in the team on a regular basis if Starfelt's going to be out for a while. We don't know what his situation is, but I think it's going to be very similar. I thought the team looked very sharp and really positive on, again, I'm just keep referring to the game at the weekend, but that's the game that I've seen. So looking at that, I think really positive. Hatate looks as if he's really starting the season very well, so I'm really excited for him. So there's lots of different areas that I think we could probably kind of touch on, but that would be kind of my kind of take on it. I would say left-hand side, once Bernabe comes into the team, we'll see a lot more kind of dynamism on that side and his ability to kind of get the ball and take players on and hopefully create a good partnership with either Jota or Maeda on that left-hand side.
Yeah, definitely some good points there. I'm sure we'll cover as we go on. Kieran, I'll just come at you quickly. What are you expecting from Celtic as we move into the 22-23 season?
Yeah, pretty much the same as what Brian was saying. I think it'll be similar to last season, but with a few more tweaks. I think we'll be a bit more confident going forward as well. And defensively, but like you seen last season, half the players weren't here for pre-season. It wasn't his squad. Basically took over for a sinking ship, and I don't know about yourself, but I didn't see us winning the league last year just because the year before how much of a disaster it was. But obviously he's brought in, I couldn't even tell you how many players, something like 12 or 15, I'm sure it was, quite a lot. So he's got his own squad now, he's got his own tactics. He's got us into the Champions League group stages for the first time in however long. The players that, obviously, it's hard to judge from pre-season, but they've been looking good. For example, Hatai, I think he's been phenomenal in pre-season. I mean, he was obviously good last season, but the latter stages he looked a bit off with it, a bit tired. Just when you're playing every game, it's a bit hard to keep up that like very good performances consistently. So I'm hoping that's something we can see more of, is more consistency, especially in Europe, which obviously is a different kettle of fish playing in the Champions League compared to St Mirren and Livy and stuff like that. And obviously I can't really predict that just now, just don't know what our group's going to be. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, especially the Champions League, like I said earlier.
Yeah, definitely. As both of you have said, I think the fact that the squad's a lot more settled this season should see us. I'll be honest, I think we can only go from sort of strength to strength. I know we've signed a few new players with like Aaron Moy and Bernabei and Ben Segrist as well, and Moritz Jens, who obviously made his debut on Saturday as well. But I think getting the two boys that were on loan signed up was massive for Ange, just in terms of not only the quality they bring to the squad, but just sort of two highly successful players from last season who have fully bought into what the manager wants to do and who did look a class above most of the squad at a lot of points last season. So I think it's a very exciting season coming up, and domestically I've not much fear. I think you've got to be honest, it was a tight title race last season, and obviously Rangers won the other cup that was available, putting us out in the semi-final, but they've lost a few bodies and have obviously brought people in, but it remains to be seen. Like, it's sort of almost similar to what Ange had to do last season in terms of bodies they're bringing in to replace established players. Like, it could go either way really, but Europe's another kettle of fish. Like, it's just like, as Kieran says, like we could get a nightmare draw. Like, it's Champions League group stage, you're going to only get really good teams. It's just sort of how bad the draw's going to be, like, and where you think you're going to pick up points. I think, don't I pick up on it too much, but I think from what that mob done in Europe last season, we can sort of take heart from it and look to sort of make Celtic Park that sort of fortress that they did with our home games as well. As I say, it sort of remains to be seen in terms of who we draw and how we approach that. But Brian, on a whole, I know we'll still get a month to go the transfer window, and Ange says that if there's deals there to be made, then they'll be made, and he expects incomings and outgoings at the club. How happy have you been with Celtic's transfer window so far?
I've been very happy, I've got to say, because you just touched on the two guys who basically we had last season, which I think getting them in relatively early was vital, and we've just built on that. So he's picked specific areas that he needed to improve: left back, centre half, centre midfield. The jury will be out on Moy, unfortunately for him, because he's maybe not the kind of quality of maybe the rest of the players, but he's still got good pedigree. So overall, I'm happy. I think we maybe need, one more, and I would got to say I still think maybe in the midfield. I know I've just signed Moy, but I just think we need another a kind of stronger presence in there when games get a bit physical, because I'm not sure about playing against that mob and playing against a kind of physical team in Europe, whether we're kind of equipped for that. I also think that even though he's gone, Rogic is going to be a huge miss. O'Reilly is a fantastic player, but Rogic again can do things that is different from O'Reilly, the way that he takes the ball in a half turn, and he's very strong. I don't think people actually gave him that credit. He's so good at being able to fend off defenders and be able to kind of turn it and beat them and set up an attack. So I think we're going to miss that. So I think we just need a little bit more strength in the middle of the park. Someone who's maybe able to put their foot in when needs be, but can also get forward. So I don't know about what you guys think. I still think maybe one more, and I would be. I mean, the squad's looking really good. We actually need to get rid of some players, if I'm being honest. But obviously, we know the ones who are sitting on the bench all the time, or not even on the bench. The likes of Ayeti and etc. All these kind of guys, Mikey Johnston, and these kind of players who are just not going to play. And Julian, now that Jens has come in, so I don't know what you guys think, but that's my one position that I think we could still strengthen.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing I'd touch on that you said there, I think you're bang on about Rogic. I think people are sort of underestimating how much a miss Rogic is going to be for us this season. I think he's been such a massive player, and like you could really argue that last season was his best season for Celtic. Like people forget he was in the Player of the Year nominations as well. I know Cal McGregor sort of swept up, but Rogic was fantastic, and as you say, Riley and Hatate and Turnbull, they're all great players, but that sort of dynamism about Tom Rogic and what he's brought to Celtic in the moments of magic and getting out of tight spaces and stuff, I think it's going to be a massive miss. And I'm not even saying he should go out and sign somebody like that, because I think just the quality that he is and the type of player he is, they're sort of very hard to come by. So I don't think it's as easy as just saying, I'll go and get somebody that's going to do what Rogic's done. I know obviously Beaton left as well, but I think it's a bit easier to replace what Beaton brings to the team. But I think Rogic's just going to be a massive miss, Brian.
Aye, I think so. He's if you look at that type of player, when he was at the club, I don't think there was anyone like him at that time. We've got fantastically talented players like Jota, skillful players. But if you look at the games against Rangers, for example, and maybe not in Europe, he didn't do it in Europe, which was maybe his one failing. But certainly against that mob, he ran them more often than not whenever he played, and he loved it as well. So I think that's one area, as I say, I'm going to kind of repeat myself, but it's, how much is a guy like that going to cost you in the market these days? It's we couldn't afford a guy like that, but the squad's still looking really strong. We've signed really well, and onwards and upwards as far as I'm concerned.
Yep, definitely. And Kieran, just on the last bit about transfers, as we say, there's about a month to go before the transfer window shuts. So if you could bring one more player in, or even one position in, what would it be in the last few weeks of the transfer window?
I think similar to what you were both saying earlier, I think obviously Rogic is going to be a huge miss. I feel like we've got enough attacking players. I'd like to see a defensive mid to kind of cover Beaton, like a big physical centre defensive mid. Like look at your games against Livy away. He was a huge presence in the midfield, and especially going in Europe with the line that we play like quite a high like attacking line. So I'd like somebody just slot in there that can cover, like an established name or whatever. Just somebody that makes me feel more comfortable when Joe Hart's outside his box and all the way up. Even like in your league games. Maybe not the games that you're going to dominate possession, but games that you're kind of on the counter attack and stuff like that. Somebody that can get the ball forward in the best possible position, but also be defensive as well. I think that we could sign two more players. I think a striker maybe is needed as well. Like Brian was saying, like I think we will offload Yeti and Julian, and even maybe Mikey Johnson. I've seen that he was linked away on loan. So yeah, especially if Yeti goes, we'll need another striker, because like Brian said earlier, there was a point where Giacomakis missed the first half of the season due to injury, and then Kyogo missed the second half. So that's only our two real strikers that we've got now. I know that our front three is quite versatile. So like Jota can play left and right, Maeda can play pretty much anywhere. Even Abada can do a job up front, but it'd be good to have like just an out and out striker come in. I wouldn't say that's a priority though. Like if I was to prioritise, it would probably be a defensive midfielder. And just on our business alone, I think it's hard to judge them so far because like all their new signings, because it's just been pre-season. Obviously pre-season friendlies are completely different to your league games, your Champions League games, your cup games. I think once we're a few weeks in, it'll be easier to judge how successful the transfer window's been. Like you look at the season where we brought in like Laxalt and then Shane Duffy and stuff like that, we all thought that was going to be a brilliant transfer window. So as long as it's much better than that, then yeah, I kind of think it will only be time that it'll tell though so far.
Don't talk about that season, Kieran. I said, don't talk about it, mate. I've already been told off for that, mate.
I've just got it in now.
I'm only kidding, mate.
That's it. The thing is, I know what you're saying about Laxalt now, but after that, people are heralding that as a brilliant transfer window, so you never know. We'll get a few months before we judge new signings. First competition we will look at Europe first, Brian. Last season, it was a sort of mixed bag. We obviously lost early in the Champions League qualifiers to Midtjylland, then gave a decent showing of herself in the Europa League group stage. It was obviously a tough group with Betis and Leverkusen in it, and I think through that we sort of came away with, as I say, some good performances. We took 9 points in the group. That was more than some teams took that got them through the group, never mind getting eliminated. But then obviously I think a bit of a disappointment for a lot of fans was the Conference League tie against Bodo. It was that game that a lot of fans just sort of assumed that Celtic would finally get rid of that hoodoo and not win the knockout tie past Christmas since the early 2000s. What do you think this season's going to hold as? It's a completely different ball game in terms of we're going to be up against the best in the Champions League. We know that. We've not had any of these daft qualifiers to navigate. We're going to be in there. We'll be the top 4 team. We'll be expected to finish bottom of the group. But what do you expect from Celtic this season in Europe, and what would you see as like a successful European campaign?
I think this season, I think we're going to see a really up and down kind of campaign. I can still see Ange going for it. I think looking at last year at the start when we, taking aside the kind of Midtjylland game, which we were totally underprepared for, and it wasn't his fault. That was a result of kind of previous regime, but he still almost got us through that tie. But I think going into the Europa League and the kind of quality of the teams, I think a lot of us were probably still quite negative about our prospects, but we came through that group. Even though we didn't get through the group, we obviously got out of it in terms of getting into the conference, and we put in some really good performances. I think the one blot was the Leverkusen game at home where they battered us 4-0, but we put in some really good performances, and I think we'll be the same this year in the Champions League. We'll have probably 1 or 2 top drawer sides, but I don't think Ange fears that. I think he'll go at them. And it may well be that we get battered 6-2 or 5-3 in a couple of games, but I still think he'll feel that he can take points from every game. And, I just don't think he's the type of manager who's going to go there and try and eke out a 0-0. He's just not that type of manager. And to be honest with you, I kind of support that attitude. I think that we should be going out there, not naive, because I think at times when Rodgers was a manager, we were a bit naive. I think we got beat. Barca beat us 7, didn't they, one time in PSG? 2 teams that I don't want in the groups again this year. Kind of a bit fed up with playing them, but I think this year Ange will definitely go for it. And again, the quality of teams will probably tell in the end, but I still think we'll maybe get an outside chance of getting 3rd place if we get a decent draw in that group and get us into the actual the next round of the Europa League. So I'm really excited for it. I mean, we're at the stage now where we're in the groups. We've had no qualifiers, and it's quite unusual for us as Celtic fans over the last few years to actually have this kind of fairly relaxed July where we've been like, right, what's going on here? We've not had any stressful trips abroad to places that we've never heard of and trying to pull back a 1-0 deficit to win the tie. We've cruised through pre-season, and we're now going into the Champions League group stages with, a really strong squad. So listen, they could all change, but I'm buzzing for it. I think we should be looking to get 3rd. I don't think we can hope for any better than that unless we get a really good draw and you get I don't know, like a Frankfurt or a Porto or someone where we can maybe turn them over. But yeah, I'm really, really excited, and I think 3rd place is definitely achievable, but I think there'll be a lot of high-scoring games in it. I don't know what you guys think.
Kieran, what do you think the Champions League's going to bring in? Have we got any hope of making it out of the group, even if, as Brian says, it is to drop into the Europa League?
Yeah, I think it's early stages to kind of predict what's going to happen. We could finish 3rd with quite a decent group. We could also finish bottom and no points. It just depends on the group. We could get a group of death. But like Brian was saying, I would fancy our chances against a Frankfurt or a Porto or teams like that. I mean, you look at even the Sheriff that beat Real Madrid last season, just narrowly missed out on the 2nd spot. So, I think, again, like Brian was saying, Ange is going to kind of go for it. He's not going to play for like a 0-0 type game. I think he's going to try and get the best possible result from every game he plays. And like he said again with the Rodgers statement, I don't think we'll get. Obviously, I don't want us to get clipped, but I don't think we'll get like hammered or anything. I think it will be a couple of tight games, especially at home. If we somehow get an early goal against a big opposition, the roof will kind of come off Celtic Park, and with that 12th man could see us seeing it through. So Yeah, I think we'll see on the 25th of August when the draw is actually made who we'll get in. Then we can maybe revisit this, see where we go from there.
Yeah, definitely. As you both said, it'll be really interesting to see how Ange does sort of shape up. I know against Betis and Leverkusen, they didn't really change the approach, but I think you need to sort of tailor it when it's this level with elite teams that we're going to come up against. Like if you come up against like Man City or Liverpool or whoever else, as I say, every team in the Champions League is going to be absolute quality. And the harsh truth it is, we're probably going to be like the lowest ranked team in the competition just because of a coefficient. Like I was just looking at the pots there, and like even your pot three teams, like you've got teams like Dortmund and Inter and Napoli and whoever else. Like so, it's going to be really tough. And I think I can't see Ange changing too much, but you need to find a way where you're that good at plan A that you don't need your plan B a lot, because it's going to be one or the other. You're either going to come up against teams and be that well drilled at playing this sort of way and being so much better at it than we were last season, then maybe we will just see it through. But I think maybe you need to look to tailor it, like you mentioned, having a sort of defensive mid there that would break up play if you were bringing somebody in. Kieran, I think that's something we would really need, like to get any sort of real success in the Champions League. Like I think it's sort of lacked maybe since like a Wanyama type. Like I know Brown was obviously in his prime, was sort of that player as well that would be in the face of opposition and breaking up play. But I think we're sort of lacking that sort of Wanyama type player in there. But it'll be interesting to see. Like if we get to the Europa League through like a third place finish, then it'd be an opportunity. Like I think standards should be higher than what we've sort of like had of late. Like our expectations, I think, should be higher because of what's happened across the city. Like I think they've showed that it is possible to go toe to toe with these sort of Europa League level teams and beat them. Like so, I think whatever happens, we need to be focused on going further in Europe than we did the last few seasons. And obviously, I would be imperative to that. We've not done that in 20 years, like after Christmas. So it'll be one that we need to really improve on. But we'll move on to sort of domestic front, Brian. It's going to be another I think Celtic are so well drilled in what Ange has done and the players we've retained and the squad's basically as it was for the last few months of the seasons, plus with a few additions. We've not really lost anybody that's going to have a massive effect on the team. But as much as I've sort of bigged up the opposition a wee bit by highlighting how well they've done in Europe, like I think this season Celtic could I don't want to clip by anybody, but I think we could sort of be looking to win the league a lot more comfortable than we were last season. I know we eventually won it by 4 points, but if you take away that sort of 6-game start where we lost 3 of the first 6, then it could have been much more. How do you see this season's domestic action going?
I think, yeah, I would kind of agree with that point, because our season really didn't start in terms of winning lots of games until the kind of 6th or 7th game in, and then we went on that incredible run. So yeah, I mean, our consistency was incredible last year. So I can just see that continuing. I don't see any other team in the SPFL at the moment having strengthened that much that that we can be concerned about them beating us a couple of times and maybe pulling us back towards Rangers, because we've strengthened. Rangers have strengthened in terms of names and numbers, but we don't know how they're going to pan out. So irrespective of what they've done, we've got a strong squad, and I think that's all we need to concentrate on. So from that point of view, we can just do what we do. You've made a good point. We're well drilled now, and we've had a full pre-season. The players have got in early doors. We've not signed players, late, as in terms of even before the start of the season. Everyone's in now, so apart from maybe 1 or 2 that he might sign going forward. But I'm really, like yourself, looking ahead to a season of dominance in the Premier League again. But again, it's up to us to kind of continue that form. And Ange won't. He's not the type of manager who's just going to sit and go, well, last season was great, and we'll just look to maybe hopefully do better. It'll be onwards and pushing as far as he's concerned. He won't accept any kind of drop in intensity or quality from the players. So continue that, and I still think Celtic will. They've they're looking strong for me. Celtic are looking strong, and I just think that I can't see us, losing that many games this season. The games against Rangers will be tight, but elsewhere, no, I just don't see it. I think Celtic could not run away with it, but you could be looking at maybe 6-8 points, maybe something like that. Again, this is going to get clipped if we don't, but these are predictions in the 25th of July, so we can only call it as we see it, but that's certainly how I see it.
Yeah, definitely. And Kieran, how do you see the domestic action going? Obviously, Ange won 2 out of 3 of the domestic trophies available to him last season. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, again, quite similar. I could see us winning by. It's very hard to tell because obviously Rangers have made a couple of signings. I don't know how they're going to be. They could be brilliant or they could flop. But yeah, no, they've made a couple of signings, but as of week, so I think it can go either way. Both squads are kind of similar to last season, but I mean, both sides have made improvements, or gotten worse because we've lost our two. I wouldn't say key players, but Rogic obviously was key, but Beaton was he was good for coming in for the odd game or two to see out a game. Like he would often come on in like the 60th minute when it's a tight game, just to neaten things up a bit. If you want to call it that. And obviously they've lost Alvin Bassey and Rebo, who you'd probably say is key for them as well. So it's hard to tell, but I do think that we will win it again, and I think it'll be by a few points. There's nothing suggesting that we won't. Even at the end of last season, we had such a good run towards the end. Don't think we lost a game in the split, and you can correct me if I'm wrong there, but the split is obviously the top 6 teams, and we never lost. So there's nothing suggesting that we're going to do worse than last season, especially with the cup as well. I think the only thing that can maybe suggest that is we'll be playing a lot more games at the higher levels. So it will just be about, can we keep that up? Can we keep pushing on and getting through these games? Because we're playing in the Champions League group stage and the league and all the cups. We'll be playing at least twice a week for most of the season. So it's just whether we have that team that can do that, that can rotate every couple of games, and if players are capable of coming in and doing a job. And it just, again, it depends on what Ange prioritises, really. He could completely prioritise the Champions League, Europe, or the league and domestically, or he could go equally for both, in which I think he will do. But again, it's early doors, but yeah, I do think we'll win it by a couple of points as well.
Yep, that's that. Hopefully that is the case anyway. We'll get around the predictions now, so I don't want this to be too long an episode. But Brian, I'll go you first. We'll start with domestic competition. So the league and the 2 cups. How are Celtic going to fare in? I'm just give you a prediction on them.
League, definitely. The cups, I mean, I don't think that we couldn't expect to win a treble. It's difficult to win a treble. So I would say, again, minimum 2. Celtic being Celtic, we should always be looking to win every game, and of course we should be looking to win. But winning trebles became fashionable because we made it that way. Winning all those trebles up back to back. But it is a difficult thing to do. Regardless, you can always come up against a team who's up for it, and you're just not quite at it on any particular day in the cup, which is cup. That's what it's all about. So difficult to kind of say, oh, we're definitely going to win a treble, because it's just difficult to kind of actually achieve that, as we seen last year. So now I would say two out of the 3. Scottish Cup probably over the League Cup, so I would probably say we'll win the league and the Scottish Cup.
I'm with you. That's what I think as well. I think we're going to win the league and the Scottish Cup. I know League Cup's obviously the first one that's in it. It was an important one for Ange last season as well for his first trophy, but I think it might slip this season, and I think we'll get the league and the Scottish Cup in its place this time. Kieran, what's your prediction?
Yeah, pretty much just the same as you guys. I think we will win the Scottish Cup or the League Cup. I think we'll win one. I'm not too sure which one, but I think we'll also win the league by about 8 points as well. I mean, it could come down to the last game, or it could be wrapped up early. As long as we win it, I'm not too bothered about how many points. To be fair, it's just looking back on it. That'll be at the end of next season. Obviously, at the end of this season, we'll see whether it comes down to 2 games, 1 game, or whatever. As long as we win it. Not too fast, but yeah, I do think we'll win it.
Yep, so that's all of us in agreement. It'll be a League and Cup double for Ange again. On Europe, Brian, where will Celtic's European journey finish this season?
Champions League, optimistically 3rd in the group. And then, as we've just talked about, being able to put a run together in the kind of knockouts of the Europa quarters or semi, again, if the draw opens up for us, a good run anyway. I would, getting through to the kind of latter stages of that tournament, we should definitely be looking to achieve that if we can get, third place. And I mean, we've already talked about, we could get an absolute howler of a group and we finish bottom, and that would be it. But that's how the Champions League can work. There's that many good teams in it. So, but optimistically, I'm an optimist. So I would say third in the Champions League groups, and then we're going to win the Europa League, guys, aren't we? Come on, let's just say it. We'll win the Europa League. We'll go one step further than that mob, and we'll no drink out a toilet.
Well, that sort of prediction can never go wrong. Kieran, what about you? What do you think? Well, Celtic's European journey going this year?
I am a bit optimistic as well, but I think we'll finish third in the Champions League group stage, narrowly missing out on second. And with the Europa League, I have no idea where we'll finish there. I'd like to be as optimistic as Brian and say we'll win it, but it's still a huge European competition. I mean, it wouldn't be impossible, but it's still a very difficult task to achieve. I would love to see us do it though.
I'm going to bring down the tone. I think we'll finish bottom of our Champions League group. I apologise for bringing.
No way.
I know. I think we're going to go out all guns blazing. I think there'll be some high scoring games, but I think ultimately we're Celtic, so we'll get a terrible draw and we'll be up against three massively brilliant teams. But we can only hope. Neil Lennon managed to guide a team to the last 16, so who knows? Maybe Andrew will do it as well. And final prediction for this episode, Brian, who's going to be Celtic's Player of the Year this year? Obviously, Cal McGregor swept the board last year. Joe Hart got ours. There was a lot of candidates last season. Who do you think it will be this season?
Player of the Year this season, I think it will go to Jota this year. I think he's got a real point to prove after a good season last year and re-signing. I think he's going to do well for us in Europe, especially. So yeah, he would be my Player of the Year tip.
Yeah, I think it'll be. I think Jota could see it through, and I think he could get it. But I also think Hatate, as long as he can keep it up for the full season, I don't see why not. He's had a fantastic season, and even last year, you've seen some of the goals he scored from centre mid. I don't think he scored inside the box until that goal against St Johnstone at the later stages. And yeah, I see him, or maybe O'Reilly as well. Any of them.
I think it'll be Kyogo. I think Kyogo was well on course to sweep every trophy that was going last season if he stayed injury free, but I think he'll make up for it this season and scoop just about every Player of the Year award. But as long as Celtic have a good season, I don't really care who it is. So that'll bring an end to this episode. And just before we go, as you know, we've been ramping up the sort of YouTube content, and Brian, I'll bring you in. You had a special guest on our YouTube channel. So if people want to know who it was, you want to introduce who it was and any sort of highlights from that episode?
Yeah, so spoke with Liam McGrandles, who, for you, anyone who doesn't know who he is, a kind of singer-songwriter, sings a lot of Celtic songs and plays at a lot of gigs across the country. So top guy. Kind of was talking about his kind of love affair with Adidas Predators, and he's got new tunes coming out. So he's a really down to earth guy. He's just from around where I live as well. So yeah, that's on YouTube now. And so yeah, just go out there and download it and see what you think. He's a real good guy, and I hope he's all enjoy listening to it or watching it.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed watching it the other day. As I say, it's only on YouTube. I'm sure anybody that's listening to this has probably listened to Liam McGrandles, even if you didn't know who it was. He's been on the pitch at Celtic Park in the Kerrydale, or just, as you say, up and down the country, and just about every Celtic supporting bar. You've probably seen him at some point or heard him at least. But aye, that's over on our YouTube channel. Just search for PodTims and you'll find that. But we will leave it there, and thank you very much for listening, and we will be back at some point in the near future. Cheers.